new documents have been declassified in the UK, documents that date back to the Cold War, and they reveal some very interesting information about foreign policy at the time. And we're talking about the mid-80s. Now, the document showed that the UK had a policy of blaming the Soviet Union no matter what, even when it was their own fault, and had a policy of making it look like everything was the Soviet Union's fault. Okay, basically during the mid-80s there was the peaceful coexistence reactionary idea that was put forward by Gorbachev and company. Now, Moscow was willing to acknowledge that the UK had a security interest in how the Soviet Union was functioning, but the Soviet Union wasn't allowed to have an acknowledged interest in the security situation of the West. Basically, Moscow confirmed it was willing, during the confidence building measures, or CBMs, with NATO to European Russia, that NATO should agree to include the US and Canada in these discussions. The UK called it a geographic ploy, and then failed to reach an agreement on it, and then blamed the Soviet Union because they wanted to include more parties in this cooperation. Any failure to resolve existing problems or even engage in meaningful debate should be seen to be attributable to the Soviet Union and its allies and not to the West. Basically, the UK wanted a policy of, we're going to make it look like we're cooperating, but we're not really, and then when things don't go well, it's the Soviet Union's fault. Now, Gorbachev had visited the UK and spoke with Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. He had been so cooperative as to actually give the locations of secret Soviet missile targets in the UK as a part of the strategy of cooperation, and they still pulled this on them. This standing to criticize the Eastern European government's policies, both domestic and foreign, in an international forum is well worth preserving. We must be ready to refute any assertion by the East that they must protect themselves from Western cultural pollution, pornography, propaganda for radicalism, and violence. So basically, they were claiming to be cooperating with the Soviet Union the whole time to forward peace, yet at the same time sabotaging the whole thing and then blaming the Soviet Union for it. Is this really anything new? What have we seen out of Western so-called democracies? We've seen Saddam Hussein, we accuse you of having nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction. Let inspectors come in. Then the inspectors come in, they find absolutely nothing, and then they accuse him of still having it. And then accuse him of not allowing inspectors to go to certain places, and accuse him of hiding them from the inspectors. And then all along, he never had them. Isn't this the same thing that they do with a lot of countries like Libya? They make all these accusations of Muammar Gaddafi as having committed these so-called human rights. Let our investigators come in and look, and if you don't, it means you're guilty. Then they come in, they find nothing, and then they just accuse Gaddafi of having committed human rights crimes anyway, and use that as a justification to overthrow his government. This is the same thing with the DPRK right now. The DPRK is bad. They're really, really bad. Well, we're trying to cooperate with them and to have better relations, but at the same time, they sabotage them all the time. The DPRK does something that asserts its sovereignty, and then they put a punishment on it, but then turn around claiming that they're trying to build good relations with them. I mean, this is just absolutely false. This policy of blaming the other guy, blaming the victim of imperialism, not that you could really say that the Soviet Union was a victim of imperialism, but this imperialist dishonesty is an ongoing trend that continues to this very day. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, then head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can go to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media.